folks, happy Friday and welcome to the Freedom from the Press podcast. My name is Jason Robertson and I'm here with my partner in crime,
Todd Peterson. Thanks for joining us, folks. And Jason, I'm chuckling here. I was looking at the Facebook count. I think I used a buzzword. I wanted to throw BIGLY in the title so bad because we have so much to celebrate. And I think Facebook is like, that's a Trump word. You're going to Nukesville today.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. Todd and I do digital marketing as well as content creation. And sometimes you realize social media algorithms get a little wonky. And especially when you're talking about things like President Trump or the media lying or even RINOs now. Like they seem to love Liz Cheney.
They've got to circle the wagons around RINOs. You got to protect the establishment at all costs, Jason.
Right? Oh my gosh. Well, today's episode is going to be fantastic. We're going to encourage you. Give us a like, give it a comment, give it a share, especially share it with people you might not politically agree with. First half, we're going to talk about how the media is melting down. Second half, we're going to get into some of the budget stuff. And that part's going to be really important because we're going to break through some nuts and bolts of how this is supposed to work so that everybody understands kind of the machination and how you're being lied to and how it's really supposed to work. It is insane. Yeah, and Faley checking in already. Good morning, Liz Cheney's going down. Turns out when you coach witnesses in a sham trial, that might be against the law.
Who knew? I had no idea. Who knew that our politicians would break the law? But they all deserve jumpsuits, Jason. They all need to be in orange jumpsuits.
Yeah, that's why, like, on Twitter, I'm just ranting. I'm like, just shut down the government. Just shut it down till January 20th. Let Trump get sworn in. The world will go on. We'll be okay. Like,
yeah, and I'm running out of words because everything on Twitter that I say, it's like criminal this, criminal that. And maybe they're not criminals by definition, but at this point, I'm just overusing the word. I will abuse that word. They're all criminals. The media, they're all criminals because they lie to you. They make people unwell. They hurt you. I'm in these Twitter battles with these just absolute NPCs, and they're trying to tell me these government narrative lines. And it's just like, yeah, you're not physically hurt, but we have harmed people's well-being, their ability to think clearly. Sign me up, Jason. I think that's criminal too.
It's funny you say that because there was a Tim Pool clip going viral where he was calling out this Democrat, and the juxtaposition was amazing. We probably can't play it on some of these platforms because there's a lot of swearing, but Tim was talking about January 6th, and he was saying, like, these charges are bunk. These people are in jail for 2 years without, like, this is ridiculous. And the Democrat dressed up like Alex P. Keating for those who are like suddenly, and he's like, oh, the government wouldn't lie to us. Like the government did this and that. And it just hit me. Like, I remember when I was a young man growing up in the 80s and 90s, like it was a Democrat position that the government were corrupt. The politicians were corrupt. Like law enforcement can get a little sketchy. How did all this get reversed? It's like bizarro world.
I swear it's trading places, Jason. These rich guys went into the bathroom. They traded $1. They said, I bet you $1 we can flip the script 180.
Right. Yeah, I bet we can make conservatives hate the government and lefties think the government's the be-all, end-all.
Here comes Eddie Murphy on his little scooter. But, Jason, we got so many clips we got to get into today.
Oh, where do we start? Oh, we got to start with that one.
We got to start. I think her name is Stephanie Ruhle. Am I pronouncing that correct?
I believe so, yes.
Man, she has been on a tear. I love X's just like they're plastering her face and they're like, you hate the media, they lie to you. And then they post a picture of this Stephanie Ruhle character and they're like, she's in her own universe of just spreading propaganda and the delusions that she's talking about. Her admission here is pretty remarkable. I'm going to play without context, Jason. Let's just listen to this lady talk and then we'll break it down.
Oh my God.
A company like Disney, $15 million is not a lot of money. They're insured for it. There's a very, very good...
And it's a company that's worth $200 billion.
And there's a very good chance they could say, in this complete rage-fueled environment, we don't want to have to face day in and day out of even random emails being exposed, even if they say nothing much to it, just embarrassing emails, day-to-day emails that any of us could have between our colleagues.
Emails at Disney going back and forth discussing Donald Trump, probably in preparation for the interview.
Yeah, or not. Who knows what they would be? It's easy to say the company could say, we need to move forward. We need to get into 2025 and move on. However, for the media environment, for the rest of the world, when they see a settlement like this, there is a chilling effect, right? Because what happens immediately after? Well, you see Donald Trump say, I'm going to sue the Des Moines Register. I'm going to sue the pollster who put out a poll just before the election that said women in Iowa are going to vote for Kamala Harris. Listen, she and the Des Moines Register were already proven wrong, and they already submitted all of their data. And they're saying, listen, we will fight Donald Trump. We will protect our First Amendment right. But who knows how deep their pockets are? And we can all say, listen, a judge is going to throw this out. By the time you get to a judge, tens of thousands of dollars are spent in legal fees. So if you're a local news organization, right, and you're saying, I want to accurately cover this administration, like all of us are going to, it's a scary time. So for all of us, this is a warning. You better have your T's crossed. You better have your I's dotted, which I actually think is a positive because we need to do that. But yeah, there's definitely a chilling effect.
Let me just summarize. A journalist said that we need to be honest as journalists. Well, who knew?
I love the last part of that clip so much. Like it should be illegal. She's talking about we need to dot our I's and cross our T's and make sure we're telling the truth. And I'm like, yes, that is your entire job description if you're going to be in the media. Like, if you want to be a political commentator like we are, we can get on here, and as long as we don't, like, tell a tortious lie we can get sued for. But, like, you're supposed to do that. Am I wrong, Todd? Is that not, like, job one of the media?
Seems like you would learn that on day one, but I think, if I'm mistaken, you go to college to get your journalist degree because now you need a 4-year degree to go write a story about what's happening. You probably get told you need to spin the story. Donald Trump is bad. MAGA's all domestic terrorists, according to Joe Biden, and you will toe the party line. I think that's what they learn in school nowadays to be a journalist. But what a revelation. This is all we have wanted for the entire time. Just give us the truth. And she won't connect the dots. She'll still be out there, be like, why do they hate corporate media so much? Why do they hate journalists so much? And it's like, because you lie?
Right. I mean, we named this show Freedom from the Press. And we spend 90% of our time telling our audience, which we love you guys, but we tell the audience, like, here's what they're telling you. Here's the truth. Here's how the media is lying to you so that you can be informed. Because that's all anybody wants. Even friends of mine on the left, they like when you expose lies to them, they're like, "Oh, that sucks. I didn't know they were lying to me." And it's like, here you have a fairly significant member of the media saying, "Oh my God, we're going to have to tell the truth."
And the context of the video was they're talking about the lawsuit Donald Trump won against ABC and George Stephanopoulos for a paltry $15 million. I did a comment this morning, Jason. Megyn Kelly was going on about how ABC settled because they didn't actually want to go to discovery, because then not only do we learn about the defamation case against Trump saying he's a convicted R word, which was not true, and George Stephanopoulos is out there saying, like, Trump did this to a woman, and he didn't, so you can't say that. But ABC didn't want to have all their other emails, all their other text messages, files, documents, communications exposed, because then it would be even worse. And so ABC was like, fine, we'll bite the bullet on this Stephanopoulos defamation statement and move on here. But I mean, she's talking about how this is a bad thing that the media is being held accountable by Donald Trump. Oh, no, you mean we can't lie anymore? We better get our facts straight. Like, yes, that's all we ask. That is all we have ever wanted. And I got to say, Jason, we have job security because the media will never stop lying. If the media were honest, there's no Freedom from the Press podcast because there's nothing to be free from. But because they lie, they will always lie. I think there's always going to be a spot for us here.
Right. Well, and it's so funny because let's put some historical context on this. After 2020, there were claims against a certain software company that the voting machines were funny. Okay. And then Fox News got sued. Fox News got their butt kicked. Fox News paid a bunch of money. Alex Jones made claims about Sandy Hook. They have taken Alex Jones to the Stone Ages. Billions of dollars in civil settlements, trying to shut down all of his stuff, right? And the left cheered, "Oh, this is great. Oh, this is great." And the whole context of Alex Jones and Fox News, the premise of those lawsuits were they were telling a lie and they knew it. If they weren't telling a lie, even if they were lying, but they didn't know it, they wouldn't have lost. But they had to establish the fact they were telling a lie and they knew it. So why did ABC settle? They liked using the R word about President Trump, and they knew that was a lie. They settled, like Todd eloquently said, if all the emails come out, all the internal communications, all that stuff comes out, and they're in there admitting, even though this isn't true, we're going to say this, like they're done. I mean, that makes the Dominion, that makes the Alex Jones, they probably face criminal charges because they are lying in a way to affect an election. I mean, we've heard for 4 years about election interference and everybody's going to jail for this. I mean, that settlement was huge. And now when she's saying too about this pollster getting sued, the pollster is getting sued because her numbers, we covered it on the podcast the day after it came out. Those numbers were so egregious. They had Kamala winning Iowa by like 3 points, and she lost by 16 or something. Like, there's no way in good faith a pollster could see that number, go, yeah, that's a real number, and go out and spread that to the world. The only reason you do that is if you're trying to interfere with the election, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'll say it's election interference, and that's why I throw around the word criminal. That is a violation of existing law to go out and knowingly interfere in an election. I think Seltzer is guilty of that. And to comment on, we have talked about this issue before too. The double standard. If there weren't double standards, they'd have no standards. She's out there saying like, "Oh, poor Ann Seltzer, poor Des Moines Register. They're just some small company. They're going to spend so much money to get this in front of a judge before it gets tossed out." And like to your point about Fox News and Dominion as well, they never had a problem with Fox getting sued. They never had a problem with Trump getting dragged in court and fined $500 million to E. Jean Carroll. They celebrated all these lawsuits, the lawfare, and now suddenly it's a problem that it costs money to go to court. It costs money to be sued. News outlets can't report the truth anymore. And again, where was your outrage with Fox's lawsuit? Instead, they celebrated it. Where was your outrage with the fake lawsuits against Donald Trump? Instead, they celebrated it. They're still lying. They can't help but lie. Even when they do these cope sessions, they go on their apology tours, they still lie to you with how they feel about it.
Well, and here's what's fascinating too, is in the end there, when she talks about the purpose of the lawsuit, it basically breaks you financially. And we've talked about that on the show. Michael Flynn, for those who don't remember the story, the FBI went after him for lying in the transition process. He got kicked out of the Trump administration. He spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on lawsuits. He lost his house. Ultimately, he was exonerated and he sued the federal government. And he got a big settlement. And I think some stuff still pending. But we said all along, the punishment was the process, not whether or not he was found guilty or if he was, exonerated or not. They wanted to financially bankrupt him. Why do they put all these charges against Trump? They want him in court, spending millions of dollars on his defense rather than being out campaigning. It had nothing to do with the charges themselves. She lays it out. She explains it. We've been saying this since we started this podcast. We have been saying this publicly, that the purpose of this is to bankrupt people and silence them. It is not about the law. And the left goes, well, they'll have their day in court. Like, they'll get to prove their innocence. And blah, blah, blah. And we're like, no. Like, these charges shouldn't have even been brought. Well, left, congratulations. Now it's coming after you.
And I got to say, Jason, I don't feel bad at all. These aren't the rules that I would prefer to play with, but they establish them as rules. And we can't do what Republicans always do and say, we're above that. We're going to be nice. We're going to try to compromise. We want unity. Got to heal the country. I don't want any of that garbage. Whatever they did to our side, we are in charge now. And I want to come out guns blazing, and metaphorically, of course, and just handle business the only way that the left handles business. Like, we should bankrupt them. We should intimidate them. They better not want to try this stuff again. Otherwise, you better believe we're coming after you.
Todd, you bring up an interesting point. And I do the Wayne Dupree podcast during the week. And him and I got into it, I think it was on Tuesday, where, like, I am so excited to see President Trump bring the lawfare, bring the noise. And Wayne's like, well, no, we got to be better than that. And I'm like hell we do. Like, being better than that's what's got us in this problem in the first place.
Yeah.
Like, if you're in a knife fight, you bring a knife. If you're in a gunfight, bring a gun. Like you don't show up for a gunfight with the knife and expect not to get just demolished. So left set these rules. Let's play by those. And then if the lefts come back and go, oh, we shouldn't have done that. Okay, let's tone things down.
We'll renegotiate when they come to the table. But as far as I can tell, communists have one speed, and that is full speed ahead to destroy this country. There is no amount of compromise, no amount of unity that's going to get them to slow down. Why are we wasting our time being nice, being above it, trying to find some deal with them? It's just not going to happen. Like, every single person that Trump can go after, legally, of course, and he's not going to go after people just because they're political opponents. He's going to go after them because they've actually violated the law in some way. So he's going after them because they are criminals, and then secondarily, they happen to be his political opponents. People still can't figure that out. The left is trying to tell you, oh, he's going to go after political opponents. Yeah, you mean like Joe Biden did? No other reason than Trump is his political opponent. But when Trump does it, it's because they actually broke the law, and we want him to do that.
Right. This is, Todd, I got to say, I'm sitting here enjoying my Split Rock coffee. We got Todd in the crowd. I got to warn people too, though. I switched to the lighter roast, and it's got way more caffeine in it, I think. So I'm like bouncing off the wall. So if I come across,
ready to go today.
I am ready to go today. What's the next thing? Do we see Brian Stelter melting down?
I pulled up more Stephanie Ruhle clips because I was kind of fired up about Ruhle as well. And I just want to get more of her out there. Folks, this is the face of the media. She is everywhere. This one went viral just because it's a before and after of the Hunter Biden case. And again, just to expose the media for what they are. No matter what side of a story they take, they are always lying. They have no principles. They don't stand on any values. It's whatever I can say in the moment to go after the political enemies. Here she is side by side. Let's take a listen to her before and after the Hunter pardon.
Latest attack has been that Joe Biden has politicized and weaponized the DOJ, right? That was the whole argument around Donald Trump's conviction. And this week, of course, Hunter Biden was found guilty, and Joe Biden has very clearly said he would not pardon his son, he would not commute his sentence. How can Republicans keep making this argument now that Joe Biden has really put it out there? For 4 years, Fox News has been, where's Hunter? And he stood there in a courtroom, flanked by his family, and he's accepted his sentence. Now, we have heard a lot of takes about this pardon over the...
All right, if you're listening to the audio, here is part 2. So there you heard her in June of 2024 saying, oh, Joe Biden is such a wonderful man. He's going to let the process play out. No one's above the law. I won't interfere. I won't pardon Hunter. We all heard that from Biden, from KJP, from here, Stephanie Ruhle. And so now here she is, part 2 in December after the pardon takes place. And again, listen to them just twist the narrative.
The last day. But it is important to remember a few things. This has absolutely no impact on what Donald Trump has done or will do in the future. It just gives him a new talking point for the next few days. President Biden has a right to do this. It is in the Constitution. If you win the White House, you win the power of the pardon.
We should retitle our show, You Don't Hate the Media Enough. Man,
oh my gosh. We use that title. We bring it out like every 3-4 weeks. And I mean, seriously, and I just want to know, folks, as if you end up talking politics with some of your friends and family, show them this clip and say, walk me through this. Because when you saw her on MSNBC in June, you agreed with her. And when you see her on MSNBC in December, you agree with her. And they are two polar opposite statements, decisions.
And they are stated both with equal confidence and assuredness. And I am right about this. And like both of these things cannot be true at the same time. And yet that is a hallmark of these progressive, leftist, communist, Marxist, whatever word you want to use for them. Like they live with cognitive dissonance. He won't pardon Hunter, and here's why pardoning Hunter is actually okay, and we should be okay with it.
Yeah, what's
and
that
you wonder why we
that goes
can't talk to
around?
these people.
That meme where it's like it's not happening. No, it's really not happening. Okay, it might be happening. Okay, it's happening, and it's good.
And again, it's worth saying, if Joe had just simply said from the beginning, I'm going to pardon my son because that's what any dad would do, there's no outrage. But then, of course, you got to peel back the layers and say, actually, it's not about a father pardoning his son. It's actually about a father covering up his own criminal activities. And that's why a pardon needs to go back 10 years and be carte blanche. So even then, their narrative falls apart. I just can't, because everyone has an aunt like this. You get together for the holidays. They're trying to tell you why Orange Man is bad and you're a racist for supporting him. And you're like, this is how you think. This is insane.
Well, yeah, even like the pardon was funny because we covered it on the show, but he started the crimes he was convicted of started with his earnings in 2016. His pardon went back to January of 2014. One would say, why would you go back 2 years before?
What was happening?
I don't know.
Yeah, and then I love how they, of course, they used the recent horrific massacre in Wisconsin to push their gun control narrative. And the obvious reply is, you just pardoned your son for a gun felony. Don't tell me about we need stronger gun laws. We have gun laws on the book, and you just pardoned your own son for breaking them. Like, when you take that seriously, I mean, I'll never take their gun argument narrative seriously, but like, at least start there and tell me you're arguing in good faith. But sure, let's pardon your son for a gun crime and then tell us how guns are bad.
It's ridiculous. Although I will say, full disclosure, I thought the Hunter Biden gun charges were dumb. And honestly, they didn't charge him with all of the stuff they should have. Like, there were drugs, there was unusual
Minors?
sexual activities that may or may not have been legal. There was business dealings that were probably against the law. Like, I mean, put it in perspective, the tax evasion and the gun charges were the lightest charges he could have gotten out of all of it.
Yeah,
like,
I will say this.
perspective.
If his name were not Hunter Biden, if it were my laptop with that content, you would never see me again in society. They would be they wouldn't even knock on the door. They would be ramming it down, hauling me away with 10 squad cars. And that goes for everybody else in America. But Hunter Biden, again, Democrat privilege. And they always want to talk about white privilege. And you're like, here's a picture of Hunter. Like, number one, it's a stupid narrative. But number two, if you believe it, here's Hunter Biden. He's white. Where are you on the white privilege card?
Right.
So much disconnect. God, it's all cognitive dissonance here.
Oh my gosh. Where do we go next, Todd? This is exciting. I love this episode.
So,
folks, let us know in the chat. Hey, we got Francis checking in too.
Francis, good morning.
Hey, Tom, good morning, Francis.
Oh.
We need like K-Gun Girl too. I wonder if K-Gun Girl's around.
We got Patty in the chat too. Patty, I think you're starting to be a regular on Facebook. Love you joining on Facebook. Love you watching. Love you commenting. Hop over to the Rumble app where you can find us at the American Tribune over on Rumble. And that's where we do some bonus content that would get us out of business if we set it on Facebook. So we've got to stick to our Rumble platform for certain conversations. Head over there after the show. You can find us at the American Tribune.
Giddy up.
So when I think of media, Stephanie Rule's kind of a newer face. She's been around for a while, but she never really got highlighted. We always had Don Lemon to make fun of Brian Stelter. And wouldn't you know, Brian Stelter is back. He couldn't hack it at Harvard. CNN was so desperate, they were like, you know who we should bring back? Brian Stelter. So here he is also crying about all the things happening in society right now with the lawsuits and the Trump winning. Let me pull up this clip.
I love this.
I think it's this one.
I love the
Crenshaw's
fact that somebody as untalented as Stelter makes a comeback.
Yeah, how does Brian Stelter ever get brought back on television?
Elon Musk is spreading fake news. On this, he is fake news.
And he relies on people to reply to him and tell him what's up. He says, you are the media now. That's his message on X. And yet that really leaves a lot to be desired.
Yeah.
I say I can't believe people think this way. I'm being facetious. I understand how people think. It's just so dumb. I'm running out of words, Jason. I'm trying not to use our other R word that we like to throw around here on Facebook. But Brian Stelter, gatekeeping for the media, saying only I can be in the media because reasons. And yes, the American people, even if they weren't the media, are the American people. And we are telling Elon Musk and everyone else what we want from our government. I don't know why this is controversial. The American people have a voice on X. Elon can reply to that voice, see the voice. We can speak out to Donald Trump directly on social media. You work for us, guys. This just in. The government works for us. This is what we want, and we're going to tell you that.
Right. And here's what's amazing to talk about Brian Stelter. So right now with the budget deal, Mr. Potato Head is on his network talking about how in the last budget deal that got voted down last night, Republicans removed funding for child cancer treatments. Oh, the big bad Republicans, they want children to die of cancer. That was what the mainstream media said, right? Now, what are the facts? The facts are the funding for the organization that they put in the continuing resolution that they really called an omnibus bill were already passed in February from the House and went to the Senate. And Chuck Schumer, who is in charge of the Senate, will not address the single budget voting bill on just that funding for the child cancer. So if anybody hates children with cancer and doesn't want to fund it, it would be Chuck Schumer and the Democrats. And this, like, I was tweeting about it, other people have been tweeting about it. And when we say we are the media, we went on, we found on the government website when the House passed it, we screenshot it, we shared it, and said, you're lying. So every member of the House representative that's going on all these shows or on their social media accounts and saying Republicans pulled out funding for child cancer, they are liars. They should be called out as liars because they already voted to pass the bill. If they were being honest, they'd say, we really need the Senate to take it up, even if you're not going to politicize it and say Democrats hate, kids with cancer. But the media is supposed to be the gatekeeper of that. So when Elon says we are the media because you clowns let stories like that go out, you sensationalize it, and you completely spin it incorrectly. And they do it by telling kind of a truth that's a lie. So the truth was, yes, that spending bill, because Chuck Schumer won't put it on the floor in the Senate for 8 months, they put it in the omnibus continuing resolution. Yes, when Elon and Doge and the House Republicans redid the bill, they did remove that. Part of the reason they removed it is the Senate already has the bill. All they got to do is pass it. But the media doesn't report that. We are the media because you're a bunch of liars.
Yeah. And you know what? They're redirecting your anger to where it shouldn't be. How about you get upset at, again, Dem senators, Rhino senators? The fact that we don't have these single issue bills to vote on at all tells you that they don't care about the issue. They just want to jam it all into the rest of the spending and get their pork. Matt Gaetz was really strong about single issue bills. He's now walking out of Congress a little bit. But if we were a serious government, we would vote on these things one by one. But they don't do that because they don't want to do that.
Well, and actually, this might be the time where we go education mode for a minute. Can we go education mode, Todd?
Let's go teacher mode.
Let's go teacher mode. Audience permission, we're going to go a little educational here. I tweeted about this earlier today. So if you follow me on Twitter at JRobFromMN, like you see the high level breakdown on it. But most people don't know how this government spending is supposed to work. In 1974, there was a bill passed that was called, I forget the name. It's like the Congressional Budget and Impoundment or something like that Act of 1974. Oh yeah, Todd, thank you. Pulling it up.
There you go. So
first Monday, if this is from the law, this is a law. This is on the books. You can look it up. You can read it. I linked to it in the tweet thread. The president gives the guidelines he wants to the Congress on the first Monday in February. Congress then meets and decides at a high level how they want to spend the money, where they want to appropriate the money, how it all works. They do that by February 15th-ish. Then, let me check to make sure. No, April 15th, sorry. And then after they agree on a high level, what those numbers should be, like how much we spend on defense and the different categories, then you have another month to flesh out all the specifics. And then once you flesh out the specifics, you write it into a bill, and by October 1st, it's signed and passed by the president. And then the fiscal year for them starts October 1st. So really, like by late fall or late spring, early summer, the budget for the next year is done. This has been done successfully the last time in 1996. This is not a Republican issue or a Democrat issue. This is a political establishment issue. And there should never be this last minute, how are we going to fund the government? Here's a 1,500 page thing. This should all be done. And I put it in my tweet. Like, this is job one if you want to be a member of the House of Representatives. Like, you have the power of the purse. That is job description number one. And in my opinion, every member of the House, if they can't get this done every session, they should all get fired. Next time you are not eligible for re-election, you didn't get your budget done. Because, Todd, you worked in the private sector. What happened if you didn't get your work done?
You went out of business. You got fired. Jason, we're self-employed. If we don't balance a budget, we don't have any money to feed our families and pay our mortgages. It is really simple.
Right. And if you're an employee, which members of the House of Representatives, they work for me, they work for Todd, they work for everybody in our audience. If you aren't going to do your main job, which is put a budget together and get it approved and get it through Congress. If you're a daycare provider and you don't want to watch kids or change diapers, you're going to have a very short career as a daycare provider. And if you're in the House of Representatives and you don't want to get this budget stuff figured out, it should be a short run in there. If you're in the private sector, I would fire all of them tomorrow.
Yeah, great point, Jason. Can we make a constitutional amendment? Let's propose it on the show right now. Maybe someone that has some power can do something about it. New constitutional amendment. If your session of Congress doesn't balance the budget, ineligible to run for office again. If they're going to make up some Civil War era legislation against Trump for citing an insurrection and they want to say that disqualifies you from office, new idea. If you can't balance the budget, that disqualifies you from holding future office as well. I like this.
Yeah. I got to say, I'm hoping this week was a big week for me on the Twitter. Matt Gaetz retweeted me and he already followed me. So I got a retweet from Matt Gaetz and then Lauren Boebert followed me. So I'm really hoping in the digital universe, somehow this finds it to somebody with a way bigger platform than me who can make this a reality. The House of Representatives, if you can't do a budget according to the guidelines of your job description, you're fired. You're all fired. You don't run for re-election.
I do have to say this, Jason, about social media. Everyone out there, sometimes I'm guilty of saying it too, like, yeah, X isn't real. It's all on the internet. It's not real life. Like, fact check false. Like, you and I have access to Matt Gaetz, Lauren Boebert, Elon Musk at the tip of our fingertip. We can influence decisions. We saw how the American people rose up against this monstrosity of a CR, and we had Congress change their minds. Like, real life change happened on X. So I'm kind of done talking about how, it's not real life. It's just social media. It's just an app. It's just on your phone. Like, get out and walk over. Yeah, get outside, walk in nature, tend to your garden, mow the lawn. But like, X is real. We enacted real change with the power of our voice on social media.
Yes. And here's the important thing, too. Every single person who watches a show, who creates content, like supporting content creators like us or other people you like in the space, that's why it's important. There are American citizens that have no idea what I'm talking about in this tweet for how this budget process should work. Your crazy blue-haired aunt who's going to be screaming at you for Donald Trump shutting down the government next week at Christmas has no idea that and then when you say, well, Congress is supposed to pass a budget, they're going to scream, oh, but the Republicans. And it's like, no, this has only happened one time since 1997 was the last time this happened. Like, there are people that weren't even alive watching this show in 1997.
And I got to say, Jason, it's so easy to call out the blue-haired cat lady, why not liberals, but it's regular Americans too. They might just be busy going to their job, taking care of their family. I don't know why I do this. I replied to someone that's not a blue check. It doesn't help the algorithm, but this was someone that retweets a lot of Thomas Massey. They love the idea of limited government, and they're complaining about shutting down the government, saying like, oh no, how are we going to pay our service members? And they're missing the forest for the trees. We should all want a balanced budget. We should all want less government. And for folks on our side even say like, this isn't a good deal. Like, yeah, it's a crummy deal, but it's the politicians and the establishment's fault that we're here in the first place. I'm not going to rehash what you just said about here's how the process is supposed to look. And when I say I want to shrink the government, these people are like, yeah, but do you know how many people are in the armed services? And I said, yeah. Do you know how many people work for the government that don't carry a weapon? We have all of these bureaucrats in DC that don't need to be there, that have been working from home for the last 4 years. The larger the government, the smaller you are, the less freedom you have. Yes, I want our servicemen and women to get their paycheck, to pay their bills on time, to get their kids Christmas presents. And I also want our government to be shut down and shrunk.
Well, and I'm going to say something that might offend people. Full warning. And I will say this, I don't apply this to the military service members. I think we underservice military service members. So I'm not talking about current or former military service members. God love you. We wouldn't have a country without you. But all you federal bureaucrats who work in the Department of Committee of Committee, welcome to the real freaking world. If the company you work for sucks and is inefficient and they aren't running like they should, you are going to show up to work one day. The doors will be locked. You will not get a paycheck. That's how it works. Like, I don't know how many retailers, restaurants, small businesses I've seen in my lifetime that were run poorly. And then all of a sudden, and I feel bad for the employees. Don't get me wrong. I've been affected by that. Hey, there's shutdowns. We're closing down this store. We're closing down this distribution center. People in our audience have been affected by that. That's life. If you're going to work for a crappy company that's inefficient, you know, it's going to happen. Like, I work for retailers. I tell the story on the podcast. My first job was at Sears Roebuck and Company. Like, if you rode Sears Roebuck and Company to the bottom, like, you were an idiot. Like, you got what you deserved. The writing was on the wall. They were going out of business for a long time. You would have been smart to get out. If you are a federal bureaucrat, you see how the government's going. You see the spending. You see public sentiment. If you're still sitting there taking the government money and you aren't saying, like, hey, sometime they're going to shut this government down. Like, you know, this one, the budget's due. They haven't approved it. If you haven't prepared for that and understood the eventuality of that, you're an idiot. Like, and welcome to the private sector.
And I gotta say, Jason, if you're one of those government employees, maybe you're a nice person. You probably vote Democrat, but that is neither here nor there. If you see the writing on the wall and you think, hey, I deserve this job, well, go out and get another job, to Jason's point. And if you're afraid that your skill set doesn't pass muster in the private sector, you're kind of proving our point that you shouldn't be where you are in the first place. If you don't think those skills that you have, or whatever talents you may possess, if you don't think that'll translate into a private sector job, then congratulations, you just showed us that you shouldn't be working in the government either, because then what do you do all day?
Right. Oh, and I got to address Francis, too. If I weren't banned on X, I'd follow you both. Francis, I don't know when you got banned. I'm going to tell a true story for me. I had a spicy anonymous Twitter account pre-Elon where I would tweet things like I tweet now, like the government sucks and whatnot. That account got banned. It was a pretty big account too. And then when Elon bought it, I said, I'm gonna give this platform a shot. And I just had my personal Twitter page that had like 200 followers on it or whatever. And it's a picture of me and my wife. So if you ever want to know what Mrs. Chase Robertson looks like, Jen and I are on there. And I'll just use my personal account. I won't do a business account. And now I've got pretty big following on there, like 130, 140,000 people. And I can say anything I want on there, short of like a threat of violence or that kind of thing. So if you had a Twitter account before and you got nuked pre-Elon, it's pretty safe. And like, you guys see what stuff Todd and I say on here. All those things are things we say on Twitter. Like, a lot of times we cite our own Twitter posts on here.
Yeah. I mean, I got to say too, like, if you're not on X2, you're missing out on a great source of news. Just to plug X as a platform, that's where I get all of my news now, Jason. I am not watching corporate media. The only time I see corporate media is to make fun of it and point out how they're lying to us. Like, that is where you get real news. So if you're not on X, Francis, I'd encourage you to get back on. Your account might be lifted. You could appeal to get it lifted. Start a new account. Start following us. Start following some others here. And I think Americans that are on X are probably the most informed Americans out there.
Right. And you do have to be careful on X because there's a lot of garbage on there too. And so you have to be discerning. And a number of people I follow, like I love people that cite source material, and that's the one thing X does really well. Because like when this funding bill came out, like I actually go and I read the bill and I'm like, oh my God, it's 1,500 pages. And there were already like 10 or 15 people I follow that were reading through the bill, screenshotting actual paragraphs from the bill and throwing them up there. Like people don't know the first spending bill had a provision in it that said no special committees could seek information about the January 6th committee. Like, why is that in a government funding bill? And like, why are you even saying that?
Why are you putting in measures to prepare for another pandemic, authorizing the government to repeat everything that it did in the last couple of years? Why are you sneaking in a 40% pay raise? Not only should these people be fired and disqualified from holding office, they went the other direction and said, we're doing such a bad job, we're going to give ourselves a 40% pay raise while the rest of the country suffers under these awful economic conditions.
Right. Yeah. And all that were actual like screenshots from the bills. People were posting on Twitter X. It was, and Todd, I don't know if I can ever call it X.
I always call it Twitter. And I ask the question, what do you even call a tweet nowadays?
Right. Yeah, I call it the Twitter. I call it the tweet.
It is what it is. I'm old enough that I'm not changing anymore.
I've kind of reached the old crusty, like I don't care level. Although it was interesting. I was engaging with somebody on the Tim Pool thing, and I'm like the kid was dressed up like Alex P. Keaton. Like, shout out in the audience if you know who Alex P. Keaton is. And the guy goes, I'm only 31. I didn't get that joke. And then I looked up the video. Okay, that's funny. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, who knew I would live to see people that didn't see Family Ties? Did you ever see that, Todd?
Here, I was just being ridiculous for a second.
Oh, there you go.
There you go. No, I never saw it.
Familiar you never saw that show?
I mean, it was in the reruns when I was a kid, but I was watching the Wonder Years when I was a kid.
Oh, that's funny.
All right.
Where do we go next on our journey of insanity?
You wanted to play this. I'm going to appeal to you right now. You wanted to watch a clip of Cenk Uygur, and I can never pronounce his name correctly. But this guy's never right about anything. He's such a total grift. He hates MAGA. He's always hated MAGA. And then he's like, MAGA has good ideas, and I've had those ideas all along. Like, this guy is a complete buffoon. But I'm playing this one for you, Jason.
Well, and actually to frame this up, so Cenk and Anna's kind of a cute little blonde. Like, they are crazy far leftists, and Anna is starting to wake up. Like, I forget how long ago. I think it was 6 months ago. She lives in one of these big cities, and a homeless person sexually assaulted her. And so she reported to the police, and she started talking on the show about this crime's out of control. Like, there's all these homeless people in front of my house. One just sexually assaulted me. I think he grabbed her butt or something. And the left rolled her. And now she's looking at the left going, these people are clinically insane. So she is doing a show with Cenk where she's like, these people are insane. So I'm kind of an Anna fan. It's a dream of mine someday she'll show up on the Freedom from the Press podcast.
I think we keep trying.
And we'll keep trying.
Kamala Harris will probably win in a cakewalk for governor.
No!
Okay.
No! What are you doing? What are you doing?
No, I'm telling you the reality, whether you like it or not.
What are you doing?
Democratic voters in California love to obey. And so
oh my God. I'm gonna move, Cenk. I'm gonna quit my job. I'm gonna quit my job and I'm gonna move.
I'm not saying I'm in favor of it. I'm telling you what's like if the Democratic Party said, we anoint Kamala Harris, a giant percentage of Democrats in California would go, yes, we obey. We will take the loyalty oath. It doesn't matter how bad she is.
This state cannot survive another incompetent Democrat leading it.
Leading it. Democrat like Kamala.
No, we just can't. Okay,
I have to pause it there to make my point. There is no such thing as a competent Democrat, by the way. You can't qualify like I need an incompetent Democrat. I don't want that anymore. I need a qualified Democrat. Like, folks, this just in, they don't exist. Every single Democrat politician is interchangeable with every other Democrat politician. They all have these same bad ideas. End of story. So if she's out there, we need to find a good Democrat candidate. Like, not enough, Anna. You need to not have any Democrat governor in California. That's my piece right there. Because people
One thing to add on to that,
they
Todd.
vote on the person. No. If they have a D behind their name, they're awful.
Well, one thing to add on to that, folks, if you need proof of this, go look at the Democrat voting records in like the House or the Senate. You will find at most 1, 2, 3 Democrats that ever vote against any Democrat thing that comes out. Like, they are sheep following the shepherd. Usually when they vote against it too, it's because in their district, it's just so bad if they vote against something that they have to vote the other way, and they work it out behind. So it's not good that Republicans vote against Republican stuff, but like, you could have a brain in the Republican Party and you can oppose things, and we'll argue about what they should oppose or not. But Democrats, you don't get to do that. Like, here's your marching orders. Here's how you do it. And just go execute what we tell you to do.
Yeah, and just to paint that picture, in Minnesota, where we live in 2022, Minnesota Democrats won the House, the Senate in their Congress, and the governor's office. They had a 1-seat majority in the House, and that didn't stop them at all from implementing all of these insane far-left policies. They did not care about ruling in the middle since they had a 1-seat majority. They had that 1-seat majority, and they ran with it. You could go back to when Nancy Pelosi was Speaker of the House. Democrats only had like 223 seats. You know, again, just a slim majority, didn't stop them. Every single Dem got in line and voted for the far left agenda. And then you got Republicans in the Senate, Republicans in the House, and we're debating whether or not we're going to confirm Trump's appointments. Like, absolutely insane stuff.
Like, anyway, so like, people are egging her on. Okay, apparently she's like in a wait and see mode. How about you wait and see like your way out of public life and go do what you're supposed to do. Go work in the private sector, go do the lobbying thing, whatever it is, but do not run as governor of California.
Yeah.
So, go ahead, Todd.
I was just going to say, news is that Kamala still wants to be president. Her name's getting floated for governor. And my response is, yes, please. I want as much Kamala Harris as they're willing to throw at us at this point.
Well,
Go for it.
On that note, I will challenge people in the comments. Have you ever seen a less impressive politician that was a presidential nominee in your lifetime? I have not. I mean, Dan Quayle as VP maybe got a run for being close, but Kamala Harris was just awful. But what I liked about this clip is this shows what's going on in the Democrat Party, where you have somebody like Anna with a brain who's saying, like, Kamala's awful. We can't run somebody this awful. Can we get somebody that's not awful? And you got Cenk, who actually, I agree with Cenk on this point. There are Democrat brainwashed people. I mean, think of this. 74 million. So pre-Joe Biden stepping out, which I forget the date on that, like every American, Kamala had like a 10% approval rating. Everybody, Democrats all agreed Joe Biden was fine. Kamala Harris was an idiot. As soon as Joe drops out, within 2 weeks, Kamala Harris had like a 90% approval rating or whatever the number was. She went from super low to super high, and then 70-some million people went out and voted for this idiot. And it was funny because we did an episode a year ago. Joe Biden won't be the nominee. Who will it be? And we were even talking about there's no way Democrats can be so stupid to nominate Kamala Harris. Shout out to Wayne Dupree. He called it. He said, no, it'll be Kamala and people will fall in line. He was right. Like, Democrats just fell in line. It is insane.
You know, I saw an interesting take. I think it was from Jack Posobiec where I saw it first. Don't know if he came up with the idea or not, but Dems just admitted defeat in 2024. Their hands were up. They're like, Joe Biden's so unpopular. These policies suck, even though we're not going to change our policies. We just need to message them better and lie to people about communism. So they threw Kamala to the wolves, and his theory was they just had to clear her out of the way so that she didn't come back in 2028. They said, we know Joe's going to lose. We know whoever runs in 2024 is going to lose. Let's just make it Kamala, get her to lose just resoundingly, and then be done with her. So that was his new theory getting floated around. It was just a plot all along to remove Joe and Kamala at the same time.
Well, Todd, don't make me grab it. Don't make me grab it.
I prompted the tinfoil. Here we go.
I'm going to say, like, I think there is a certain possibility that the Democrats knew that Kamala, that things were just so bad, and they're going to try to economically crash the country. Jerome Powell announced they're only going to do 2 rate adjustments next year. If you look at how Democrats are positioning with this spending bill, like they're setting up to tank the economy, and they know the company's been living on, or the country's been living on credit cards for the last few years, running up the debt. And as much as I want to cut back spending, if you cut back $2 trillion in spending, which is what we overspend every year, you're going to have economic consequences for that. And so I think they're setting things up where Trump's dealing with World War III and Trump's dealing with an economic crash, so that after a rough few years, Democrats can sweep in 2028. That's my conspiracy theory.
I don't even know if that's a conspiracy. And Jason, I just want to give a shout out before I comment on that. Dee Dee in the house.
Dee Dee.
Welcome, Dee Dee, over on Rumble.
Giddy up. It's not a party without Dee Dee.
We need the whole gang here. As soon as Kagan Girl gets in the house, we're set.
Right. Yeah, and we got Susan in here. She's coming in hot. I can't stand the look.
Gibbs, welcome aboard. And folks, thanks for tuning in on Facebook. Thanks for following us on Facebook. I understand that Facebook is where it's at, but head over to Rumble, go to the American Tribune channel. That's where we stream live every Friday, and that's where we do our bonus content after we conclude on some of these big tech platforms that don't care for conservative ideas still. No matter what you see about Zuckerberg giving millions to Trump and Bezos giving to Trump, it doesn't change the reality on the ground for us.
Right. Hey, and Wendy over on Facebook, too. I mean, she's dropping some truth bombs over there. Poor babies haven't had raises in 4 years, and they couldn't believe what they did to Kavanaugh. I love our chats. They're so fun because it's like, folks, part of why Todd and I do this show is because we want to find like-minded people who look at this stuff and say it's insane and can just look at Kamala Harris, even if you're a Democrat, and go, like, you're awful. I talk about my Democrat friends, and it was funny. My buddy Jim, we get together every couple weeks for lunch. Some week Todd's going to join us. And like before they named Kamala, he's like, oh yeah, she's an idiot. She's an idiot. She's an idiot. And then when she became the nominee, he's like, you know, I might be wrong. Kamala might be sharp. And now that she lost, he's kind of come back and gone like, yeah, you're right. She's a retard. Oh, I almost made it first hour.
53 minutes in. That's still a PR for you, Jason.
Ugh. All right, where do we go
next?
next?
Ask about your buddy Jim, because I think Jim is kind of my proxy for the rest of the normie Democrats, I'll call them. I think that's the word we use on our show here. If you accept the fact that you get lied to about Kamala Harris being a great candidate, you drank the Kool-Aid, not popular, nominated, popular, lost, not popular again, and you just accept the fact that, okay, they lied to me about Kamala Harris. As Paul chimes in the chat here, they lied to you about Joe Biden being healthy his entire time in office. Has he ever been in charge? Fair question to ask you, hiding the dementia. They lied to you about the Trump cases. Those all got dropped because there was nothing there to begin with. It was all election interference. Like at some point, what's the awakening where you're like, there's no turning back? The media lies to me. The government lies to me. The government doesn't have my best interest in heart. I'm not going to vote for establishment politicians anymore. Like, what's the great awakening moment for people?
Right. Well, and Paul dropping some hot bombs there. Paul, we love you. And hope your dad's doing okay too, Paul. But reporting's coming out today from mainstream sources that people on the inside of the White House are saying Joe Biden really wasn't mentally fit the whole time.
Surprise.
Now, we got to be a little careful till we get to the Rumble only part of the podcast here before we talk about that. But it's all developing. And I just laugh because I'm like, at what point in the last 4 years did you see this guy doing an interview? Or, you know, we shared a million clips about Joe Biden just talking or walking. And at what point did you look at, like, the average human could look at him, and if you didn't know who he was, you listen to a video of him walking and talking, you'd be like, okay, so that's a nice old man who's not even partially there. And we were saying that, and we had to really coach our words on some of these platforms. And now it's coming out like, yeah. So like every Democrat, and the news outlets, like we call out these big news anchors, they see the same video we do, right? Like they have more access to information than we do. And it's like, are you kidding me? I don't even know how these, I don't know
and
how.
Jason, I'm going to tell the story too. Our Facebook page, I took a video from C-SPAN, which is public domain. We can use the clips without any, copyright retribution. All we did was take a video of Joe walking on Normandy, and he's doing his little gait. And captioned it like Joe Biden has a hard time walking. Like, we didn't editorialize it, and Facebook demonetized the video. This was in June, like a week before everyone admitted Joe Biden might be too old to run for office again. But the censorship was incredible. The lies were incredible. And again, I'm just going to tell the story, Jason. Maybe we talk a little bit more about the new reports coming out about Biden on the Rumble only section. But just a wild time we lived in, folks. I don't even think we can appreciate how much they lie to us. Like, it's just lie after lie after lie. And you can never get caught up with all of them.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, even on like the Wayne Dupree podcast yesterday, we do an hour. I'm like, can we do 3 today? Because there's just so much, like all the stuff breaking in the news. And I got to say, Carmen, too. Great comment. Dems are like the wife that answers the door when her husband, mistress, tells her he's cheating on you. And the wife slams the door and goes back to watching The View. Carmen, full disclosure, I am going to steal that. I'll try to remember to give you credit for it, but that is exactly it. Like this wine wife is living in this alternate reality, and it's like reality slaps her in the face with the mistress showing up, and like, oh,
Yeah,
that
like
can't
since you see reality, you know that it's bad, and you just keep on believing something else.
Right. Well, how do we wrap up the Facebook hour, Todd?
I was just looking. I thought we had one more clip, but we might have played them all. Yeah, we didn't line up too many videos this morning. Oh, you got the Romney clip. Should we listen to Mitt Romney cope a little bit?
We need to listen to Mitt Romney.
I mean, this kind of brings it together. The media, RINOs, like you got Mitt Romney on CNN. Like, what a perfect encapsulation of everything that is getting lied to.
Won. He won overwhelmingly. He said what he was going to do, and that's what he's doing. I mean, people are saying, oh, I don't like this appointment or this policy that he's talking about. But those are the things he said he was going to do when he ran. So you can't complain about someone who does what he said he was going to do. And I agree with him on a lot of policy fronts. I disagree with him on some things. But it's like, okay, give him a chance to do what he said he's going to do and see how it works out.
Todd?
I almost want to give Mitt Romney some credit.
I was going to say, I have this uncomfortable feeling I'm agreeing with Mitt Romney. Like, did you ever see that movie Silkwood, where after she got like exposed to the radiation, she's like laying in the shower, like scrubbing herself? Like, I feel like we need to do that.
So here's where I'm going to come in and say, I can't give you too much credit, Mitt. This is what is happening, though. So the smart ones are getting in line. I don't know if Mitt Romney believes this. I think he'll always be jaded because he didn't get the Secretary of State position in 2016. Like, Mitt Romney hates Donald Trump at a personal level. I truly believe that. And I also don't know why he would be saying this, because he's not going to be in the Senate anymore come January. But you have two choices as a RINO. You can just accept defeat. You can say, okay, it's, get along or get out of there. So Mitt Romney is playing the part of, let's just see what happens. This is what the American people said. This is, of course, the right move. And I told you before the show, Jason, I am fine letting bygones be bygones. If you're the biggest anti-Trump voice in Congress, but you vote with Donald Trump and you get his nominations confirmed, like, I'm good. Like, if you move forward and you say, this is what the American people wanted, I'm going to put my ego aside. I don't like Trump. I don't like this and that, but I'm going to do what my constituents voted Trump to do. That's fine. And then you got the other side here. We didn't even have a chance to cover Dan Crenshaw, Joni Ernst, Chip Roy's getting blasted today. Nancy Mace taking some heat today. I did an hour yesterday on the American Tribune Live where we covered all of Dan Crenshaw's nonsense. So you got those idiots coming out there saying, like, nope, I hate you, American people. I don't care what you voted for. I am doing what's best for the establishment. And they're getting dragged through the mud. So I still don't believe Mitt Romney. I still think he's playing a part, trying to bring this voice of sanity, even though he doesn't believe it. So I'm couching my enthusiasm.
I'm going to say Mitt Romney, what he just said there might be one of the most powerful things that was said in the entire show, which is terrifying because I hate Mitt Romney, like on a cellular level. But when the American people elect somebody to be president, they get to institute the ideas they talked about. And we had to live through that with Joe Biden. Like, Democrats gave him the House, the Senate, and the presidency. And we didn't, set up an armed revolution to whatever. We can complain about it. We can argue with it. And Republicans didn't do enough to stop their agenda, in my opinion. But to a certain component, like, when you win, you get to do your things. That's part of why this country got so tense, too. When Trump won in 2016, They didn't let him do his things. And that's how it's supposed to work. Republicans win, they institute their policies. Democrats win, they institute theirs. And there's this give or take back and forth. And that's what keeps the country balanced. And that didn't happen. And they're trying to do it again. And I got to say, if the establishment politicians don't let Trump institute his policies, it's going to be bad for Americans, because we sent him up there, close the border, deport illegals, all these mandates we gave him that people want him to do, lower taxes, shrink government. Like, we sent him there to do that. Kind of like in the first term, we wanted him to build a wall. The fact that Congress wouldn't spend the $10 billion on the wall or whatever the number was criminal. Like, that was one thing we all wanted. We all agreed on that.
Sorry, Jason, I got distracted. The death threats are coming today. This is my first interaction on X with some lunatic. I'll talk about that on Rumble. I think that's a Rumble only conversation.
Let's go to Rumble only. And on that note, we should wrap up for the Facebook, YouTube audience. We love you guys. We appreciate your support. This year's been super fun. We get a couple thousand views on a bunch of Facebook pages. We ask you to like, comment, share the show, especially share with people you might not agree with. And we thank you so much for that. Unfortunately, there's going to be things that we want to talk about that Facebook won't like us talking about. That's why we go to Rumble. We know Rumble isn't the perfect platform. It's not as smooth as some of these other platforms to use, but Rumble lets us say uncensored things. So Rumble is very much like YouTube. You just go, you create an account. Our channel name is The American Tribune. Todd does like 10 videos every day on there about new stuff. We do a podcast. And shout out to Todd. He does The American Tribune Live Tuesdays, Thursdays, where he does he says it's an hour show, but it's like 2 hours because he gets all
fired up and then I keep going.
Then he keeps going. Yeah, and we just try to bring you guys the truth. We try to tell you what's going on. We offer our opinions on it. But yeah, if you're still on some of those platforms, go to Rumble. You'll like it over there.
Yeah. And if not, if this is where we say goodbye to our Facebook friends, Merry Christmas, everybody. We're going to be back next Friday. The holidays will have passed. So have a Merry Christmas. Spend that time with your families. I mean, go to our Rumble channel, go to our X, go to our website. But other than that, get off social media, spend time with your family and friends. But on that note, Jason, we're back in 60 seconds.